Good morning, a day short of happy 4th of July. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Certainly we have personalities and we have perspectives this morning. Be just as well we leave the politicians out because we might get thrown off the air if we say the things what I want to say. All right, our guest this morning, Bob Sullivan, representing the American Legion, and Mr. Joe Schaler, going to talk to us about the Military Order of the Purple Heart. And I just went ahead and stopped on Judy's lines because she's supposed to introduce the guest. Sorry about that.
Boy, I tell you missed 2 days here.
Yeah.
Check you right out, boy.
You're out. Yeah.
Easy come, easy go.
We wanted to, Judy, I would like for you to read the pertinent information off us because this is important. So inform both of our listeners out there.
The both
what
ones.
That's about. Yeah.
Oh, I have to tell you something that's kind of funny, personal, James. My aunt in Minneapolis, I talked to her on the phone the other day, and she gets us on the YouTube, you know. She said, I was thinking about you and I was missing you, so I dialed you up on the TV.
Dialed you up on the TV. There you go.
God love her.
With a rotary phone. There you go.
Yeah.
A magneto crank phone.
There you go.
Bless her heart.
There you go.
Well, we're very proud to have these two gentlemen with us today. You know,
Sure.
Just lately we've had Colin Kaepernick raising his sweet head again. And as I asked you when you came in, who died and made him queen that he gets to make these decisions, you know?
The media.
Yeah. Now then, last night on the news there was some kind of list about America being so great. Well, it's not great because of this, that, and the other thing. Well, by George, those kinds of things hurt my heart. What do they do to yours, fellas?
Well, that causes, there's a military expression, it's called PO.
Yes. Yeah. It's just wrong, and we're just darn proud to have you with us today.
Thank you.
And one of the things we're going to discuss is SIU Center for Family Medicine here in Lincoln has gathered together to have an open dialogue among members discussing topics related to behavioral health facilitated by SIU counselor Kelly Crooks.
Yep.
And this is every Thursday morning, 9 a.m., and at 109 3rd Street, the Logan County Health Department. And the goal is to establish a safe place for veterans to discuss any behavioral health concerns, learn coping skills, build friendships, and improve overall health. Would that had been available to my brother when he got home from Vietnam. And he isn't the only one. I bet you guys can all attest to that too.
Yeah.
Yes, some of them.
Well, last week, this was kicked off a month ago. And, of course, there won't be
Joe,
a meeting.
move that mic a little closer.
Like
Would
this.
you mind?
Well,
Thank
but
you,
see, then
please.
Bob thinks he's got two microphones. It's like,
Yeah,
I know how that goes. So.
More stuff, more stuff.
But we worked the VAC, your Logan County Veterans Assistance Commission, and SIU have been working through a variety of programs over the past couple of years. Last year we established a dental program with them, and it's finally gotten some traction where we have a number of veterans taking advantage of that. But one of the things, and which would relate back to what you're saying, Judy, is that it's taken decades to finally work at trying to get the behavioral health facilities there, and the VA has tried, but we get more done at the local level than anybody gets done at the national level, because we have great people that we can reach out to. The Logan County Health Department, Memorial Hospital, SIU, they have come together and collaborated on so many things with us to bring those here locally, so we're not driving to Peoria or Springfield or Danville, and they really have a heart to do it. They want to do it. And
God bless them, Joe.
you know, the dental program is hard to get off because nobody wants to go to the dentist.
Right.
But it's getting traction after a year, and we're very happy about that. And I told them going in, I said the behavioral side is going to be even more difficult because nobody wants to come in and say, I got a problem.
Yeah.
But in a group setting where you have the opportunity to sit there and say nothing or participate, it's all open. She has done a great job to open this up for an hour and a half. And then if you want to talk one-on-one, we'll make an appointment. We can do that. And we still work with the vet center out of Peoria. We're very happy that Justin Anweiler, who is the director, lives in Lincoln. Oh. And he has made this open every other Wednesday to continue that, where you can sit one-on-one with them, and that's free. And so we've just gradually been trying to bring this in. And last week at the meeting, we had from World War II veterans to a recent return from Iraq veteran and everybody in between. Mm-hmm. There's about 10 of them there. And that to me is a tremendous start. And because you never know what's going to happen, but Kelly comes from a military family background. She has a heart for this. She wanted to do this, and she got SIU in the middle of it. And they say, okay, we're going to help fund this. We're going to make it available. And we've just been very blessed with this. So kudos to one more time to SIU with their dental and now bringing in the behavioral health for us. And we've got some other things on the drawing board we're kind of moving towards, but we're working very hard to make this about the most veteran-friendly county there is. We're trying to do our best to bring as much as we can right here. And we're in the middle of central Illinois, for crying out loud. We're in the middle of 500,000 people. And we're in the middle of 55,000 veterans. So we do have people coming in from out of county that's taking advantage just because they don't have it there. So anyway, I'm taking part of Bob's time.
Well, we're going to get to the American Legion. We're going to get to the American Legion. We brought Joe and Bob Sullivan aboard this morning for both of you listeners out there to pay attention to the fact that tomorrow is the 4th of July.
Absolutely.
And I thought it was really appropriate to bring in somebody who is directly connected with what the 4th of July means. When Joe Schaler came back from his service, he too was severely affected by being over there in Nam, and today is carrying those same scars. And he jumped in, I think, with all four, and became an activist for military here, veterans. And it's proven to be a really good venture. And I think for Joe too. I think it's been a great help to Joe.
Yeah.
And our American Legion is so important to our community, and has been a member of the community since the First War. And we're going to have Bob Sullivan talk a little bit about that. He was not in the First War, according to the rumors that you heard.
I thought, well, okay.
No, Bill's the only one here that was.
Okay.
Close.
Yeah.
No cigars.
Yeah.
But Joe has been he brought Danny Benedict in to be a part of the veterans. Tell me the superintendent
Logan
of
County.
Veterans Affairs.
Right. He's our veteran service officer.
And people have veterans problems.
Has done he's coming up on 3 years in August that we were able to hire him. And, we were very fortunate when we met up with Danny Tackett, and I told him this last night, and he won't take any credit for it, but I said, you and I sat down and had coffee 4 years ago. And then you introduced me to Bill Gossett. And then
forgive him for that.
And then to Bill Thomas. And I said within a couple of weeks, people I did not know, all the city mayors, village presidents, suddenly were wanting to talk. And I was running the circuit talking to them about, getting the VAC established, and we need to get a levy. We need to get it funded properly. And to take that pressure off the county board having to come up with the funds. And oh man, you're asking for money, people to do this, that, and the other. And they're rushing you by putting it on the March ballot instead of November ballot. And I said, well, I don't know. We'll just have to see how it goes. And we ended up with almost 6,000 people voting yes versus 1,500 no. We outdrew all the presidential candidates that were running. And that was just an accolade to Logan County of the support they were giving their veterans. And you knew you were on the right path then. And Danny came along, and we had a number of people we interviewed. And the thing about it that, he's had to learn a lot. He's had to go through a lot of training. Retired Master Sergeant from the Air Force. Very dedicated to this, and does things people don't know about on his own dime, on his own time, to help veterans and their families. But we probably, his service and filing claims here that we're in the hundreds of thousands of dollars now that is coming into this county that wasn't coming in before. Tax-free federal dollars coming back to our veterans, that he's helped execute those claims. And it's probably in the $300,000 or $400,000 range now that's coming in, and people have to remember that's going to be year over year over year, and it's just going up.
And the impact on individual families. The veterans got a real problem, and it's going to be a family problem the first thing you know.
Yeah.
And then it's going to flower going through the sieve. It keeps going down.
Exactly.
Let's talk for a minute, Joe, if I may, please. I want to get to the Legion, but let's talk for a minute to Joe. One of Joe's passions is the Military Order of the Purple Heart. So let's just tell the listeners out there, what is the Military Order of the Purple Heart?
Well, it's the only military organization that's comprised completely of wounded veterans. And of course, the Purple Heart is the oldest medal. It was established by George Washington, and it was originally called the Badge of Merit. And then it was transformed in 1932 into being called the Purple Heart, and by a committee that was headed up by some unknown general named MacArthur, who had the Purple Heart redone by a lady to what it looks like today. And then it became certified by Congress as the Military Order of the Purple Heart in 1932. But it's the oldest medal out there, and there's only two medals you can receive: the Purple Heart or the Medal of Honor, that cuts across all branches of the service. And I'm proud of our chapter. I ended up being commander by a series of consequences to previous commanders that were all Vietnam veterans and have passed away, and all of a sudden now I was commander of it. But we're now ranked as one of the fastest growing chapters in the United States. We spend thousands of dollars on our veterans, all veterans, it doesn't matter if Purple Heart or not, throughout Central Illinois. And our auxiliary, which Melanie was president of, just did a yeoman's job of working with the transition housing for veterans and so many different things that we're like that little duck, it's moving across the water, but you just can't see how fast its legs are running. But it's always moving, and we're gaining momentum, and we're never going to be a Legion. We're never going to be a VFW.
Well, it's not supposed to be taking place of military organs like the Legion and the VFW.
Yeah, we work with them, and we're trying to work with them as much as we can, and because nobody wants to be in our club. Well, it's not something you hold your right hand up when you swear and say, "Hey, I hope I get wounded or killed," obviously, but we're just very proud of our organization.
That's not a club you aspire to membership.
No.
We aspire to answer our and honor our sponsors because they make it possible for us to be here. So go right ahead, Mr.
Great transition.
I'm back live in the studios here of WLCN. Viewpoint would be the name of the program every Wednesday, 8:15 to 0900 hours. We have two special guests this morning, and there's a reason for that. Tomorrow is the 4th of July. And I would hope to think, I'd like to think, that people won't just think it's another national holiday. There's a very significant reason for it being the 4th of July. And I hope you stop to think about what it means to each and the country over. We brought with us this morning Joe Schaler, a veteran of Vietnam. And Joe has been continuing to act on behalf of his fellow veterans since the day he got back home. And we appreciate all he's done for us here. For those of you who don't know what the military order of the Purple Heart is, you got to get you got to get shot. I almost got thrown off the air. But seriously, you have been wounded in action, and so it isn't something that is put on you like we do the postage stamps. And we're very appreciative of the work that Joe does on behalf of the members of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. And here locally, out here on 5th Street, and the corner of 5th Street, and what the heck do we call that bypass? Lincoln Parkway. Thank you, sir. I knew it.
Historic.
Well, he was director of tourism. That's why he knows it.
Well, he worked on Lincoln Parkway for a number of years. Anyway, Bob Sullivan, representing the American Legion Post 263. American Legion in this country has a steeped history, and they've got a great history here in Logan County. And it's because we have a good Logan County chapter of the American Legion. Bob, tell us about what we do here in Lincoln, Illinois for the American Legion, or what the American Legion does for the community.
Well, first of all, if I could, I'd just like to cover a couple of things. This is the 100th year anniversary of the American Legion. And part of what Joe talked about is the reason that the Legion was formed. But following the armistice in 1918, veterans started thinking about what they could do to honor the fallen, to support their wounded comrades, to help surviving spouses and their dependents. So this isn't a new idea, it's 100 years old as far as that goes. But they built on strengthening the nation and not serving themselves through four primary pillars of volunteer work. And one was veterans, the other was defense, the other was youth, and the fourth was Americanism. And those four pillars have not changed in the last 100 years. We all go at it a little different, but there are a lot of national programs that we can follow, and we do try to follow. And then there's some that we pick up locally, and one of our most recent ones, and it's not really a project of the American Legion, but it stems out of a program where I had a speaker come, a judge from which district is it, Joe? 17th?
No, 11th.
11th
District.
Judicial circuit, and he came and spoke about a mentoring system where other veterans could work with veterans that had fallen astray with the law, but had got out, but they could come and talk to them and have somebody help them where they needed it. And out of that program, I think we picked up 4 or 5 of our members that are now in that program helping other veterans. I think Joe, you do it, don't you, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a new one, and that's not even listed in the national. But
you saw a need.
Yeah.
And rose to the occasion.
Right. And I was actually a little surprised as many people volunteered to be mentors as there was, but it worked out. The program was great, and it got I guess 4 or 5 young veterans, or maybe not young veterans, but veterans, some help that they want. So,
which is very important to them individually.
Right.
Yeah.
See, the Legion as a whole is the largest veterans organization in the nation. And there's a reason for some of that. the VFW, for instance, is also a great organization, but it's limited to basically veterans of a combat that served in a combat area. So that leaves out a lot of people, but timing's everything. I tell people, sometimes they say, well, when we do a military funeral service, they'll say, well, you know, I don't know whether he should have it or not. He didn't serve in combat. But that has nothing to do with it, because when you're in the service, you go where they tell you.
Yeah, that's right.
And when I was in, I didn't go to Korea. I went to special school, but my whole basic training class went to Europe. But the Korean War was on. So it just depends on where you are, but you're still a veteran, you still served, you were still ready to serve, so everybody deserves the benefits of veterans.
No matter the who or the why or the wherefore, you don't get to say, I don't think I like that assignment.
No, you can sometimes ask for assignment, but you very seldom get the chance to say, I don't want that assignment. But the downside of the Legion, it is, well, I'm looking for a word, but anyway, congressional, it was formed through Congress.
Charter.
And so our charters are through, and so they tell us what we can do. So there's been a limitation for some people joining the Legion, because you had to serve during periods of conflict. Well, that is now a bill in Congress that is going to straighten that out, where anybody that's been in since the start of World War II could join the Legion. But right now there are a lot of disenfranchised veterans who want to join a veterans organization. They're not eligible for the VFW, and the Legion they can't join. Well, it's just, and if you stop and look at it, the real truth of the matter is, since Korea, which has never had a truce signed, we have been in a conflict.
Yeah.
Well, you could have fooled me. It seems to me it's just constant.
Well, it is, but there was a period between Korea and Vietnam, a short period there, and then there was a period after Vietnam. Now, anybody that served in Desert Storm from then till now is eligible.
You know,
But there
once again,
were
I
some
sit
periods.
here and we're visiting about important matters to individuals and groups, and I haven't said one word about our phone number again. Once again, guilty as charged. 648-5510. There may be some people out there who have a question or a comment for Bob Sullivan, representing veterans in the guise of his distinguished service to the American Legion. And I want to talk about our military funerals, Bob, in just a minute. And the other gentleman, Mr. Joe Schaler, Vietnam veteran and member of the Purple Heart, the Order of the Purple Heart, a very, very important organization. So because tomorrow is the 4th of July, I thought it'd be appropriate to have Joe and Bob with us. Bob, a thing that people kind of take for granted, and they never should, is the service that the Legion has for veterans who want a military burial. So let's touch upon that, and that's really important. Bob has served as a leader of that group for the American Legion for some time now, and they perform a real service, a healing service, if I may, for the families. So go ahead, Mr. Sullivan.
Well, it's we're chartered by the military, so we're the ones that they supply the weapons to.
That worries me a little bit. Bob running around with a rifle.
Well, they shoot blanks. But we always, at the graveside, we always tell a minister we've never seen before, we carry one live round. Let them figure that one out. But it is a service, and it's a job that I've got about 20 of us that are available most of the time.
Hardcore veterans that turn up no matter what the weather is.
The only thing that stops most of us is once in a while they let us take a vacation, and the other thing is the doctor's appointment, because we're not young. And I had a lady tell me one time, she said, she says, you guys are a little long in the tooth. And I said, well, and I won't mention a name, but I says, Jean, people don't make appointments to die, and most of the young people work, and that is the reason. I mean, we do have young veterans, but we don't get too much lead
Thank
time.
goodness they've joined and are beginning to assimilate into the organization.
Exactly. Now we have the same problem, and I guess every organization in the country has right now. Diminishing people aren't joiners like they used to be, and we have that problem, and that's what I was talking about a while ago. When Congress passes this, we have a whole new group of people that have been disenfranchised, so to speak, that will be able to join the Legion and belong, because I firmly believe that every veteran, even if you're not active as far as going to meetings and stuff, you pay some dues, you help out where you can, and you help other veterans. That's what all these, the Purple Heart, us, VFW, is to help fellow veterans, and particularly those that are really in need. So it's the funerals are something that we do. It's a labor of love for most of us. It is for me. I hate to miss one of them. Once in a while you have to, but I've got good people, and we've got people that'll take charge if somebody else can't be there. We used to do about 29 or 30 a year, just year in and year out. Well, the last 3 years we've approached 40.
Is that right?
Yeah. Now this year we're running a little behind. That sounds terrible. I don't mean that we're setting a goal, but we're not running at that rate. But you never know. We always say they come in threes, and they pretty well do, don't they, Joe?
Yeah. Well, geriatrics being what it is, people in my generation were, you're going to look at me someday, and I'm going to wink back. But in any event, one of the things that you do, not just locally, you'll go down to Camp Butler often. And there again, ladies and gentlemen, they serve no matter what the weather is. I mean, that's dedication.
Oh, it is. It's. I wasn't in the Honor Guard, but years ago they went to Rockford to do one, which is a pretty good haul. But we go to Camp Butler probably 4 or 5 times a year. Usually it's for a veteran from Lincoln or Logan County, and we also help a couple of the other posts that do not have the numbers that we have now do funerals as well. But we'll go. It's not uncommon for us to drive, say, 60 miles to do a funeral someplace. If we have a veteran from Logan County that is being buried, say, in Litchfield, we'll go there. So everybody has a real dedication to it. We do have a couple. We do have about 3 people that do have kind of part-time jobs, probably at their age now, that still make it pretty regular. And we've got a couple people that work, and then we do serve the Honor Guard. You'll see our Honor Guard serve in ceremonies around town and in parades. And we have one lady in particular who can't really get away from work a lot, but she can do those kind of things. So
one of the things that the Legion does on an annual basis is the service to retire our American flags. I don't think maybe everybody out there in our listening audience realizes what the heck to do with a tattered and torn flag. There's a procedure for that. And the first thing you can do is just take that flag out to the American Legion and stick it in the mailbox that's specifically for that purpose.
Or bring it into the bar if we're open or something and leave it.
Or even drop it.
We have barrels of them, and we just had a flag burning ceremony on Flag Day, and the winds came up, so we didn't get to burn very many of them, but we'll continue to do that. But the other day somebody came in, and he'd driven in, and he was from a neighboring town, and I said, "Can I help you with something?" He says, "Well, we got a bunch of flags we'd like to have burned." So one day we opened one, and we had all kinds of them from Forsyth, Illinois, which is
really,
which I guess I knew we did it, but most Legion posts do it. At least to my knowledge, but at least there is a ceremony, and we try to put on the full ceremony. I'd like to have it a little more pomp and circumstance than it is, but getting guys of my age to memorize things is kind of difficult sometimes.
can't remember
Well,
what
we
I had
can
for
forget.
breakfast.
I stand there the other day, and I said, and they were reading from their little cards, and I said, why shouldn't they read? Let's go. Why would you expect us guys that are 95, 96-year-old to memorize 2 or 3 paragraphs? I'd like to say I could do it, but expected to do it. So it's done professionally and it's done nicely, Bob. It's a nice service, and it reminds people of what we're about. And
Yeah, we usually advertise. You always show up. Let him burn a flag the other day, and somebody told me that was kind of dangerous, but we
yes,
did let
I
him put a
stepped up
flag
there
on.
the other day, put a flag on the fire, and gave a snappy salute, and happy and proud to do so.
But in spite of Bill being there, it was a pretty good day. We had we had this little the Christian nursing home came and brought a bunch of little kids, and the DAR helped out, and they gave all the kids a flag, and we went around and talked to them, and they learned a little bit about patriotism and the flag and the proper way of disposing it, and they were just as cute as could be, and really a nice group. But it was nice to have it. We advertised we like to have people come out and watch the ceremony. But as Bill said, any time that you got a flag that's tattered or faded, we got a mailbox on the parking lot. You can stick it in, and if you want to bring it inside, if we're open, we'll take them there.
But for God's sakes, just don't throw it in your trash barrel.
No.
That's the last thing we want to do, the American flag to suffer.
I'm glad to hear that you had little kids stop by, because that's who we have to start propagandizing, if you will, because
Fair enough,
we
word.
don't want these youngsters to be Colin Kaepernick. That's not right. That's not right.
Well, it's in the Legion's creed about to inoculate, and that's really, they help us a lot at the schools. When we do Veterans Day ceremonies, they come in with the color guard and do a little ceremony and everything. And those kids, you're looking at kindergarten through 8th grade, and for most of them, that's the first time they've seen that. Mm-hmm. And what does this mean? And we spend the day with that. And you really need the schools and the teachers, and I'll name one in particular, Westlake and Broadwell. They work a whole month building that up for that day. Mm-hmm. Every little thing, every day. Those kids are excited when they come in there. And then these guys come in, the color guard, that American Legion color guard. And it sets a tone right there of what this is about. And that's one of those outreach programs that the Legion has, that among many, but that's really more and more, I think, what we're trying to do is get to the kids, and the schools here are beginning to pull in and say, boy, that program it's pretty neat. Can you do that here? Yeah. Can you do that here? Yeah. And that's, that just makes your heart feel like, again, when that happens, you're moving down the right path, because if we don't get those kids early, the way history is being written, couple of generations now, we're going to have some real issues. So
people get labeled,
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with a label of patriotism.
Right.
Thank God I grew up in a household that I did.
I'm not going to mention the schools, but there are some schools in particular that do an excellent job, or try to, in this community.
Yeah.
And I know Bill and I. Have you been on the honor flight? Mm. You need to go.
I just go out and try to raise money for it. So.
Yeah, I know you do. But we all got letters on the plane coming back, and I know I got a pack about like that of the little school kids. Thank you, Mr. Veteran. Thank you for your service, and things like that, and all done in crayons and everything. But that they're teaching them about that. And I, like Joe, I haven't done it this last year, but I've been out to the schools quite a bit too, and we present awards, and we do and we need to do more of that. We have a lot of programs that are geared towards the youth, and through the schools. We need more cooperation from some of the schools and the guidance counselors to help us get it through. But we've got one that I want to see is put back in that we did for a long time, and that's Boys State.
My goodness, yes. I haven't heard the word in a long time.
We haven't done it in a long time, Bill.
Boys
and
State.
We should be. Yeah. And there's another one, State Police Academy.
Now, Boys State
like
is under the auspices of the American Legion. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Been there for a long time.
Well, it's a national program that was instituted in the state you're living in.
Is that right?
So that's why I think we should have really do more than we do, and we do. We do also out there. We have our Gifts for Yanks program, which is very well supported, and we lead the state practically every year, or right at the top 2 or 3 in the whole state as far as contributions to gifts for the veterans at Christmas time, and that's I've done that for years, and that can get a little. You can come home a little depressed once in a while.
648-5510. Our guest this morning, Joe Schaler and Bob Sullivan, a couple of very active veterans, and we're proud to have been, and we're proud that they're here in the community because they do a lot of good for us, for the community. Patriotism is not a bad word, folks. Waving the flag is a good attribute. When I hear John Philip Sousa's marches, my feet start to move a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't have enough patriotism. We have too many that are sitting back there sniping away with a Me Too attitude.
Yeah.
Well, we say that, Bill, but to me, I think patriotism is higher right now than it's probably been since
I hope you're
War II.
right. Yeah. I hope you're right.
People, I know, and I'm not a combat veteran, but I'll wear a Legion cap once in a while, or my old an Army cap or something that shows that I was a veteran. And a lot of people thank you for your service.
That's going on.
I don't
more
think
and
that
more.
would have ever.
Yeah.
15 years ago, you wouldn't have heard that.
Yeah, they don't know whether you and I was in the Air Corps. So everybody thinks I flew. Well, you got to have a lot of people on the ground to make them able to fly. And so my service was in communications on the ground. And I wear a cap with the 8th Air Force emblem on it, and people come up today, and that makes you feel good. I'm proud to wear the 8th Air Force emblem on my cap. 8th Air Force has a great, mighty history.
Yep.
I think Jimmy Stewart, who was a captain of B-17.
Right. Yeah.
Go right ahead, Judith K. I'm leaving you. I'm talking too much.
No, I'm not a veteran.
As
Hey,
my wife will tell you, I'm
are a
talking too
patriot
much.
here.
Yeah, she is a
Oh
patriot.
yes, oh yes.
That's
yes.
that's what it's all about.
And she has a brother who was a Vietnam vet with you.
Right.
And
And that's a great point about, Melanie would always say, I'm not the veteran. I'm always going to be behind you, supporting you. And you know what? You're a patriot, and that crosses a line. Just because you didn't wear a uniform doesn't mean you don't have the heart of supporting this country. And it's the other part of it is just because Bob Sullivan, Bill Gossett, whoever takes off their uniform, doesn't mean they ever quit serving their community. Mm-hmm. And they have to remember that about veterans too. I mean, this guy's got 60 plus years at the Legion. Look at what Bill's done for 90 plus years.
excuse me, I got choked up with it.
Well, hey, those accolades, they don't go around, and they might wear a cap every now and then. We all do. But a couple of weeks ago, when you made mention of that, out of the clear blue, well, it had to be more than a month ago, we were walking into Walmart, and some young man, I don't know where he came from, run up, hit me on the back. He was little. And I stopped and I turned around. He said, "Thank you for your service," and he handed me a piece of paper and disappeared.
I'll be darned.
And I opened it up and said, "Thank you, Mr. Veteran," and had his name on it.
Isn't that neat? And
he just appeared and disappeared back to the car. And
but he got something out of that young boy. He got something out of that.
I don't know what he got. I know what I got out. I couldn't hardly walk.
The lump in your throat's what you got. Yeah.
It's like, but that as Bob was saying, I think the level of recognition is moving up, at the same time, the numbers that are serving actively are going down. And I tell people, I end all my little talks whenever I can, that every night you need to get down on your knees and thank that 1% right now that's protecting the other 99% of us. Because we're at an all-time low of active military, and we have put an awful lot on their shoulders right now in this world, deployed in 170 different countries right now. And I had a couple last night.
And it's pretty much an all-volunteer service.
And it's all volunteer. We
that's the
need to be
important thing to
taking
mark.
care of those people that have voluntarily raised their right hand, put their life on the line, and when they come home, they need to be taken care of. You know, we need to take care of them. And you know, the Legion tries to do that, the VFW, there's so many organizations, but you know, I'm just proud to be here when I see you, when I see Bob, all these others, because you've been doing this for decades. And hopefully you're starting to see a little payback now of people coming up to you and thanking you for your service. They should be doing that.
Time to close now, but I want to tell Bob that when I came home in February of '46, that very spring, they inducted, I think, the largest Legion class they ever inducted at the state school in their gymnasium, and it was named for Dr. Bill Fox, who had been the director of the Lincoln State
Into
School.
the Legion?
At the Legion, yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's more difficult because, like I told somebody the other day, we used to send every month 8, 10, 12 people through the draft to the service. Well, now there's probably months nobody leaves from Logan County.
Right.
Because it's volunteer, so that there's not veterans coming back to draw from either. So we need more members like every other organization.
We appreciate the volunteering of Joe Schaler and Bob Sullivan to be with us this morning. Well, they were kind of asked. They really didn't step up and say, I'll do that. But anyway, they always do, and we appreciate that. Just simply going to close this morning in a patriotic resolution. God bless America. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.